Welcome back to OT Sports. Today we got our Week 17 college basketball Power 40 rankings. We got a lot of changes this week. We're almost to the month of March. Conference tournaments are about a week away from today. So very exciting time of the year to be a college basketball fan. And I know a lot of you guys don't watch college basketball until March Madness. So, if any of you guys are tuning into this video to try and learn who's good this year, this is the right video for you, because we got our top 40. We're going to go in depth of every team, take a look at how they did last week, and look at their numbers. As always, if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications to make sure you don't miss out on any of our videos. We got college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. Baseball is starting up soon, so we're going to start that. NBA is in the middle of their season, so we're doing that, and then same with college basketball. Make sure you leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. As always, my Discord and X are linked in the description. You can join that, you can follow that. But let's just get right into the top 40. Kind of a long intro, sorry for that. So at 40, I have Michigan State, and to be honest, I don't really think they deserve to be in the top 40, but I honestly couldn't find a team that I think was better than Michigan State here. I had them at 31 last week, so they dropped down quite a bit, but they had a pretty rough week. They were on a hot streak for, they were doing really good. I thought they probably should win 4 of their last 5 games, and they lost 2 in a row this week, losing both home games against middle of the road Big Ten teams in Iowa and in Iowa and Ohio State. So yeah, Iowa is a little bit below average, and Ohio State is sitting at second to last in the Big Ten. So not a great look for Michigan State and their tournament resume. So as of right now, they'll probably still get in, but they're teetering on the bubble now. They're 17 and 11. They have the numbers though on their side. So there is that. I mean, they're 20th in KenPom, 41st in offense, 16th in defense. That is very good. They're top 20 in KenPom, but looking at their record and their resume, the way they've been playing, can't see them any higher than 40. Number 39, I have Boise State. I still have them in the top 40. They're 58th in KenPom, 35th in defense, putting them at 42nd overall. They're kind of grouped. They're not. They're the team that if there is a Mountain West team to get left out of the tournament of the 6 that are in contention for a tournament spot right now, they're the team that probably will. They are second though in the conference. They're at 10 and 4, but they really just don't have the same kind of resume as some of the other teams. They did take care of business last week, going 2-0, but it was against lackluster Mountain West teams, bottom of the barrel. They finish out with a pretty tough schedule. This week they got Air Force, and then they have a home game against New Mexico on Saturday, so that will be interesting to see who comes out on top there. They finish, 3 of their last 4 games are pretty tough. 2 of them are at home though, so we'll see how they look to finish out the season. They're probably going to need to win. They're going to need to beat Air Force at least. They should. If they don't, they're going to be in trouble, and they're probably going to have to win, one of their home games against New Mexico or Nevada. And if they can win at San Diego State to finish out the year, they'll be looking like, pretty set for the tournament. But we'll see. Nebraska at 38. They're looking really good, 20 and 8. They're on a little bit of a win streak after falling out of the top 40. I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago they were in it. They fell out, but they're getting back on track now. They're on a 4-game win streak against middle of the road to subpar Big Ten teams. They finish out the year with a relatively easy schedule. They honestly should win all 3 of these games. They have a tough game actually on the road this Thursday against Ohio State. They've actually kind of salvaging their season a little bit. I don't think they would get in as of right now, but they're on a little bit of a hot streak here. They just went into Michigan State and beat them. They also beat Purdue. So they're they've won 2 of their last 3, beating Ohio State or beating Purdue and Michigan State. But so Nebraska is going to have their hands full. The ESPN analytics actually are favoring Ohio State. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Nebraska's going to have a tough one there. This Thursday, looking at their KenPom, they're 34th overall, 38th in offense, 32nd in defense. Very well-rounded team. They shoot the three very well. This is a team that if they get into the tournament, they could make some noise just because of their high-efficiency three-point shooting. Oklahoma at 37, they did not move from last week. They lose at home against Kansas and then barely survive on the road against Oklahoma State, but I really couldn't see a world to drop them down. They went 1-1. They did win. If they would have lost against Oklahoma State, it would have been a little bit tougher to keep them where they are, but they did end up winning. It was a rivalry game. Oklahoma is at 38th overall. They're 60th in offense, 24th in defense. So we'll see how they finish out the season. They have the very tough Big 12 schedule. Everyone's gonna have a tough schedule, but they play Iowa State and Houston their next 2 games. They're probably gonna need to win one of those. But as of right now, they should be in the tournament. FAU is falling. They have been on a skid recently, losing 2 of their last 3. They're at 36 now in my rankings. They just lost on the road against Memphis. Not a great look for the Owls. And I mean, if they continue at this pace, they might not even be able to get an at-large bid. As of right now, they probably will. They have some very nice wins on the resume, beating teams. They have a win over Arizona. That's a really good win. They have a couple other pretty good wins, too. They're 35th in KenPom, 13th in offense, but outside of the top 100 in defense. Just not going to cut it. But they are still in the top 40, just barely, though. They are trending in the wrong direction. Mississippi State is trending in the right direction. They are on a 5-game win streak. And yeah, I mean, they've been taking care of business against middle of the road SEC teams. They're at 35 now. They got a date with Kentucky at home tomorrow. That's going to be a really good game. And then they go on the road against Auburn. If they can win one of those, they'll be pretty set here. I think they should be in the tournament as of right now. They're 74th in offense, 11th in defense, putting them at 28th overall. Very solid here for the Bulldogs. Colorado State at 34. They were in the top 25 last week. They fall out of it after going 0-2 this week, losing on the road against New Mexico and then on the road against UNLV. UNLV is actually kind of getting up there. They could make a late... I mean, UNLV is a team where in the Mountain West tournament, I could honestly see them making some noise, maybe even winning it and getting a bid steal. They're a team who, if they get hot, they're pretty tough to stop. So yeah, UNLV definitely has that potential. And then they just showed it, beating Colorado State by 6 2 days ago. And yeah, Colorado State goes 0-2 this week, so they had to fall down quite a bit. I think they dropped 11 or 10 spots. Not a great week. They're at 29th in KenPom right now. 42nd in offense, 25th in defense. They're the second highest rated Mountain West team in terms of efficiency. But as of right now, I do like a couple of other Mountain West teams, as you can see, better than them. 33, I got New Mexico, another Mountain West team. They are right behind Colorado State in efficiency, 36th in offense, 31st in defense. A little more well-rounded than Colorado State is, but both of them are doing all right. They should both be in the tournament. So right now, New Mexico beat Colorado State at home, but then they lose against Air Force at home. Not a great look, so I did drop them down a little. But I had to keep them ahead of Colorado State since they literally just beat them not even a week ago. And then Nevada at 32. They went 2-0 this week, so I had to put them ahead of both of these teams, even though, at a neutral site game, I might take, New Mexico, probably Colorado State over them. We'll see, though. Colorado State has a home game against Nevada tomorrow. That's going to be a really fun one to watch, really interesting. Nevada right now sitting at 41st in efficiency, but they're 22 and 6, 61st in offense, 30th in defense. Overall, very solid resume. So I have them at 32. 31, I got Wisconsin. This is another one of those teams trending in the wrong direction. They were a couple weeks ago all the way up at 6. Now they're down here at 31. They continue to fall. They just don't look great. They only played one game this week, home against Maryland, and they barely beat them. They won by 4. Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin is just falling. They're still third in the Big Ten, tied with Northwestern, but barely beating a 15 and 13 Maryland team by 4 at home. Not the best look, and with the way they've been playing recently, just continuing to drop them. I just like them less and less as the weeks go by. They're still very high in KenPom, 17th in offense, 47th in defense, 22nd overall, but they have been fading recently. They're at 18 and 9 now. It's looking a little bit. It's starting to get in some murky water for the Badgers. They should still be comfortably in the tournament, probably as a 5, maybe a 6 seed right now. But you don't want to test anything. You want to make sure you got that spot secured. So the Badgers need to figure it out soon if I want to be confident in picking them in the tournament. Clemson at 30. This is a team that I think is, pretty much wrapped up a tournament spot at this point. They were on the bubble for a little bit, but as long as they don't really collapse down the season, they got a tough game tomorrow, home against Pitt. But the rest of their season, besides their last game at Wake Forest, they should probably win at least 2 of their last 4, probably 3 of their last 4. But you never know. Clemson very high in efficiency, all the way up at 24. They are 18th in offense, 53rd in defense. Overall, very solid. A team that was a lot higher in efficiency than I realized. Wake Forest, I got at 29. They're ninth. They're all the way up at 19 in efficiency, 22nd in offense, 34th in defense. They're looking really good, and they just took down Duke this past week, so they jump up quite a bit here. They weren't even ranked last week. I kind of figured they probably would end up missing the tournament, but with that Duke win, they skyrocket up. They had a really good week. They blew out Pitt, a team that's on the bubble right now, and then they beat Duke at home. Really, really good week. They got a quad 1 win, which they were lacking for a while. I don't know if Pitt is a quad 1 win. I'm not too sure. So there are 2 huge wins on their resume. They're top 20 in KenPom, and they as of right now should be comfortably in the tournament. And unless they collapse, they should end up winning at least 3 of their last 4 games. They got the tough game, last game of the year against Clemson, but besides that, their schedule is relatively easy. So Wake Forest right now is in a really good spot to make the tournament. Good for them. Number 28, I got TCU. They did not move from last week. They lose on the road against Texas Tech, but they come back and blow out Cincinnati at home, a team who is probably on the outside looking in of the tournament. They're one of those bubble teams, and TCU took care of business against them. They're 25th in KenPom, 26th in offense, 40th in defense. Very solid overall. They got a tough game tonight, home against Baylor. If they can pull that out, that would be a really huge game to win. They have a road game against BYU this Saturday too. Once they get done with this week, they should be looking. They're going to be in a really good spot because their last 2 games are pretty easy. Gonzaga at 27, they continue to win, so they're going to continue to move up. Now they have a really tough game on the road against San Francisco this Thursday. Hopefully they don't overlook that. Their last regular season game is coming up on the road against St. Mary's. So this San Francisco game is definitely a trap game. I could definitely see San Francisco pulling this one out. But Gonzaga has been playing really good recently. On the road against, possibly the hardest game of the year for them. Actually, I don't want to say that, but maybe the most important game for them. As of right now, they're probably in an 8 seed, just because their resume is really lacking. The 8 people has them ranked. I'm not quite there yet. 21st in KenPom though, 10th in offense, 60th in defense. It's very solid. Um, but I got them at 27. Their resume's just lacking a little bit. But they're gonna have 2 huge games this week to really prove to me. They got San Francisco uh, on the road, and then on the road against St. Mary's. So 2 road games. They're gonna have opportunities to pick up a quad one win there. Texas Tech at 26, the final team for the top 25. They beat TCU, but then lost to UCF. So I don't really know what to do with them. The TCU win was good. TCU's ranked, but then they lose to a UCF team who's not good. So I dropped them down a little bit, but they're still pretty high up here. They're 4th in the Big 12, which is very solid. That conference is the toughest in the country. 19th in offense, 71st in defense. Overall at 31 in KenPom. So yeah, I got the Red Raiders sitting here. Moving into the top 25 though. South Florida, I still got at 25. I didn't see a reason to move them down. Now, this is a team where if they get a decently high seed, like a 6, I don't think they will. Just because, their resume is not good. Their numbers are not good at all. So they'll probably end up with more like a 10. I don't think the committee's really high on them. I've heard a lot of stuff about them where if they don't win out, they probably won't be able to get an at-large bid. I'm going to look at their schedule right now. I know they won both their games last week. Looking at their schedule, they got 3 games left, and they're all very winnable games. They should win out. The committee said if they don't win out the rest of the season, then they probably won't have a chance to get an at-large bid, but they have a really good chance of winning out for the rest of the season. So we'll see where South Florida goes from here. Like I said, they're not very high in KenPom. 93rd overall, 115th in offense, 79th in defense, but a very good story. They're at 21-5. So good for South Florida, good for the Bulls. Moving on to 24, I got BYU. They beat Baylor at home, which was very impressive, but then they lost on the road against Kansas State. I did drop them a little, but the win against Baylor was very impressive. Baylor was a team who I was starting to get on board with a little bit. BYU's all the way up at 18th in KenPom, 9th in offense, 68th in defense. Their defense has really been falling off a cliff from the start of the season. Hopefully they can get that back on track with the last couple games they have. We will see. Florida at 23. This is a team I did not have ranked last week. They were ranked in the AP poll. But they proved to me that they were deserving of a top 25 team, even though they lost. They took Alabama on the road. I will say it was Florida at Alabama. They went in to Tuscaloosa and they took them to overtime. They ended up losing by 5, but they were winning for the majority of that game. Alabama had to come back late to secure the win. So Florida, really impressive win, and they're pretty high in KenPom too. 27th overall. It's 14th in offense, 82nd in defense. And yeah, they looked really good against Alabama. They took care of business against Vanderbilt. And, they looked really good this week. So Florida at 23, Utah State at 22. They went out and had one game this week and really showed out. They beat San Diego State. So they looked really good. Now, Utah State is pretty low in KenPom. They're at 40th. But 39th in offense, 48th in defense, very well-rounded team, and they just beat the Aztecs, team that I've been very high on for this whole season. So good for the Aggies. 21, I got Dayton. They dropped down because they did lose one again this week. Dayton's kind of a weird team. I'm not too confident on them. But I still got them in the top 25. They lose at Georgia Mason. They probably, they have a really tough game actually this Friday on the road against Loyola Chicago. The Loyola, they might make some noise in the A10 tournament. They're 20-7. They've gotten some votes in the AP poll. They actually, Dayton actually has kind of a tough schedule. Their last 4 games, they got on the road against Loyola, which is a tough one. At St. Louis might give them a little problems, and then home against VCU to end the year. VCU did just beat them about 2 weeks ago. So Dayton should be in the tournament though. They have probably secured a spot. They're at 20th in offense, 62nd in defense. Yeah, Dayton is looking like they're gonna get in the tournament. I'm not too confident in them in the tournament, but they're gonna have a chance to end this season out and prove to me they are deserving. 20th, I got South Carolina. Yeah, they're still winning a lot of games. They've won a whole lot of games. Recently. I'm trying to find it. So they're at 18th in the AP poll, and they've won. Hold on. Let me see. So they've won. They've won 9 of their last 12 games. Now last week they had a really rough week going 0-2, but then they bounced back on the road against Ole Miss this week. And I mean, I don't know. The South Carolina team could be a little bit sneaky. They are pretty low in KenPom though, so I can't really put them any higher than this. They're 48th overall, 62nd in offense, 45th in defense. Pretty well rounded, but I just can't have them too much higher. Sorry for the long pause. I was trying to figure out how they've been doing recently. They went 0-2 the week before this past week. They went 1-0 this week. We'll see how they do this week. 19th, they got San Diego State. They're 16th in KenPom, 52nd in offense, 7th in defense. Jalen Ledee is an All-American. He is amazing. He's averaging almost 21 points per game. And they play a lot of guys on their team. They got really they play about 8 people. They all contribute, but Jalen Ledee is their main guy. Lamont Butler is really good. He's a veteran presence for them. Yeah, I'm really on this Aztecs team. I think they definitely. I saw a bracketology where I honestly think they probably could have gone to the Final Four. They were in a bracket. They were a 5 seed in a bracket with. No, they were a 4 seed in a bracket with Wisconsin at the 5, which I think they would beat them. Arizona was at the 1. I think they could beat them. And then the 2 and 3, I think, was Marquette, and I forgot who the 3 was, but yeah, that is the very. I mean, this is a team that I think could definitely go back to the Final Four. They made it last year. They made it to the national championship game last year, and they definitely could go back to the Final Four this year. I think this team has the potential to do that just because of how many they're very deep, they're very experienced, and they play great defense. Washington State at 18, they really impressed me this week. Now they're still very low in KenPom. They're pretty far down there. 37th, which is a lot higher than they have been recently. They're 51st in offense, 27th in defense. But they just beat Arizona on the road. They swept Arizona this season, but then they go out and lose and lay a stinker against Arizona State. That was unfortunate. They probably should win out to finish the season. Yeah, that was unfortunate because I was getting ready to put them inside the top 15, but then they lost, so I couldn't jump them up that high. St. Mary's at 17. This is a team who continues to win. They are still undefeated in West Coast Conference play. That is ridiculous. They're all the way up at 17 now. They continue to just move up ever so slightly. Yeah, I mean, every week I feel like they're going up 1 or 2 spots. Um, like I said, they're 14-0 in their conference. Um, very high in KenPom, 23rd overall, 49th in offense, 17th in defense. The Gales are looking great. Alabama at 16. They lost to Kentucky this week. They did beat Florida though, so they didn't look great in that game though. I wanted to put Kentucky ahead of them just because they just beat they just beat them. Um, yeah, and that was a very high scoring game. Both Alabama games this week were very high scoring. They beat Florida 98-93, two very high powered offenses, but then two even more high powered offenses, Alabama and Kentucky. Kentucky wins 117-95. One of the most high scoring games I've ever seen in college. Maybe the most high scoring game I've ever watched. The whole way through. Alabama, yeah, they're still a very solid team. They're seventh in KenPom, first in offense, but the defense at 97, and this is going to lead right into Kentucky at 15. KenPom wise, they're a little bit lower, 17th, eighth in offense, so a little bit worse than Alabama, but 77th in defense. They just gave up 95 to Alabama, but besides that game, their defense actually has been looking better the past couple games. The past three of their last four games, they've held teams to under, 75. But besides the game with 75, they gave up 63 to Ole Miss and 59 to Auburn. Auburn is a top 5 team in KenPom, so that is very impressive. Yeah, Kentucky's defense is looking a lot better. Rob Dillingham is looking like the freshman of the year. He's been playing amazing. He's probably their best player. Reed Sheppard looks good. They got a lot of talent, but I'm not sure how confident I am in these two teams in the tournament just because of how bad their defense is. Now, they have the potential to prove to me, I've been saying that for a lot of teams. They definitely have the potential to get better and improve, and they definitely have the opportunities to prove to me that I can trust them. Kind of similar with Baylor, fifth in offense, 85th in defense. All three of these teams, and honestly, similar to the next team in Illinois. But I want to talk about Baylor real quick. They went 0-2 this week, but they looked really good in both the games they played. They on the road against BYU, they lose by 7, and then home against Houston, they lose in overtime by 6. We'll get to Houston in a little bit. Yeah, Baylor still unsure about them, but they've played a gauntlet of a schedule this month, and honestly, they've impressed me more than they haven't. So, they're looking pretty good. They could get as high as they as of right now. They're probably a 4 seed in the tournament, but they could get up to a 3. I don't know. We'll see about Baylor, but yeah, like I said, I don't know how I can trust these teams in the tournament just because of how little defense they play. Illinois is a little bit different. I have them at 13th, fourth in offense, a little bit higher in defense though, 61st compared to these other teams. Baylor at 85, Kentucky at 77, Alabama at 97. Illinois is just outside the top 60, so that at least is a tournament level defense. But their offense being inside the top 5 is obviously a huge help. But they lost on the road against Penn State, and they gave up 90 to them. They also gave up 85 to Iowa. You can't be doing that to teams like that. They went 1-1 this past week, so they had to drop down a little bit. But Terrence Shannon Jr. is still doing his thing, almost 22 points per game. He's been amazing for them. Creighton at 12, they took down UConn. Finally, somebody beat them. But then, kind of similar to Washington State, except a little more, impactful because they beat UConn, who was number 1 for the past 7 weeks or something like that. But then they did a stinker. They lose to St. John's by 14. I did move them up quite a bit though, just because if you're beating UConn by 19, you got to move up. Baylor Shireman, Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, All of them are doing really good. Steven Ashworth is another guy on their team who's been playing really good as of recently. And they're 12th actually in KenPom, so right on the money. 12th in offense, and 22nd in defense. Very all around solid team. KenPom always loves Creighton, and Creighton's always going to be a really trustworthy tournament team to take. Last year I had them in. Last year I had them in the Elite Eight, and they could have made it to the Final Four. They were right there. They did make it to the Elite Eight for me, so that was good. Auburn at 11. They are fifth in KenPom, 15th in offense, fifth in defense, top 20 in both. That's kind of the standard I look for when picking a team to win it all. They went 1-0 this week. They only had one game. They got a road game against Tennessee in 2 days, and then they got a home game against Mississippi State. Two very tough games. We'll see how they look. Auburn, not quite sold on them yet, but they are obviously a very good team. You look at their KenPom, they're fifth. You can't get much better than that. So, Auburn looking really good. They went 1-0, but they have a huge test this week. Moving in to the top 10, I got Duke at 10. With Duke, the offense, the defense is a little bit. I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't know. They're 26, so that's higher than a lot of teams. They're seventh in offense, and they are a very young team. I'm not sure how far they can get in the tournament. It's all dependent on matchup for me. Filipowski's looking great. Jeremy Roach, Jared McCain, Mark Mitchell, Tyrese Proctor. They're all averaging over 10 points per game. But McCain is a freshman. Jeremy Roach is obviously an older guy. Same with Filipowski. He's a sophomore. But Mark Mitchell also a sophomore. Tyrese Proctor also a sophomore. So they got a lot of first and second year guys there. Jeremy Roach is the veteran, and he's doing really good for them. But yeah, it's all dependent on matchup for Duke. For me, obviously they lost on the road against Wake Forest this week, but they've been playing really good recently. They're still deserving a top 10 in my opinion. UNC at 9, the highest rated ACC team on the list. They're 8th in KenPom, one spot ahead of Duke. 24th in offense, 8th in defense. I trust UNC a little bit more than Duke. They just showed to me in their past 2 games. I know the Virginia Tech game was, the week before last week, but they scored 96, and then they proved to me they had one game last week. They went on the road to Virginia, a team who was top 40 at the time. They're not anymore. They beat them 54-44. Kind of shows me they can win the high-scoring games. They can also win the defensive slugfests. R.J. Davis at 21 points per game. Armando Bacot. Harrison Ingram's been playing really good. Cormac Ryan's been playing really good. They got a lot of guys over there. So UNC I trust a little bit more than Duke in the tournament, but all depending on matchup. This was a team, maybe a month ago, a month and a half ago. They were, in my head, they were going to be my pick to win it all. Now I can't really say that, and obviously they're going to have time to prove me wrong. I've been saying that all video, but I can't really say that now, but they definitely have Final Four potential. Iowa State at 8. They lost on the road against Houston by 8. Then they beat West Virginia in kind of a close game, so that's kind of why I dropped them below Kansas. I was going to keep them ahead, but they didn't look great in that one. This week, they should win both their games. They're playing Oklahoma at home, and then on the road against UCF. They have a relatively easy schedule to finish out the year. They probably could go 4-0. Now, Oklahoma and BYU are going to be tough games. BYU's being, next week, not this week. But, we'll see how the Cyclones do. They're 11th in KenPom right now, 43rd in offense, 3rd in defense. It's all dependent on matchup. They could be a team who makes it to the Final Four. They could be a team who loses in in the second round. I mean, I don't know. A lot of these teams. Same with Kansas, and honestly, same with Marquette. Kansas is a team who I have honestly not been high on all year, just because of their lack of depth. They barely play 7 guys a game, and they really only have 3 players: Kevin McCullough, Hunter Dickinson, and KJ Adams. They're 15th in KenPom, the lowest of the teams inside the top 10, and 37th in offense, 10th in defense. And yeah, that's really just because of their lack of, depth on who can score. Um, so, you know, that is a little worrisome for Kansas, but they played one game this week, beat Texas at home by 19. Good win. But like I said, I'm not too sure how far they get in the tournament just because of their lack of depth. 6th, I have Marquette. They're at 13th in KenPom. 25th in offense, 12th in defense. Tyler Kolek's been playing really good. They're inside the top 5 in the AP poll. I have them at 6. Cam Jones is looking really good for them. Iguodala is looking really good once again. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of experience. And their efficiency is looking really good. But I don't know about this Marquette team. I don't know what it is. Something just makes me a little bit skeptical. I don't know. Their numbers are there. The resume's there. But yeah, like I said, I mean, they have depth. I don't know. Something just turns me off on them a little bit. 5th, I have Arizona. They tend to lose games they shouldn't, which does worry me a little bit. But their KenPom is very good. They're probably the closest team there is to being top 10 in both offense and defense. 6th in offense, 13th in defense. They're 4th overall in KenPom. 21 and 6. They did have to drop down one after losing to Washington State. Not a great look, but they rebounded against Washington. They dominated there. And they probably should close out the season winning all 4 of their remaining games. 4th, I have Tennessee. This is a team that could definitely get up to the 1 line. Them in Arizona, you could argue who should be 1 right now. I might lean towards Arizona a little bit still. But Tennessee, looking at their last 4 games, they have a gauntlet. Home against Auburn on Wednesday, on the road against Alabama this Saturday, and then next week on the road against South Carolina, and then home against Kentucky. Those are all top 20 teams, and 2 of them being road games. It doesn't help. It's obviously going to help their resume, but they could definitely fall down. Right now, I'd put them at a 2 seed. I don't think they'll get to a 3. They'll probably stay at 2 if I had to predict. But if they win 3 of those 4 games, they might see themselves on the 1 line come Selection Sunday, especially if they make it pretty far in the SEC tournament. Right now, they're at 6th in KenPom, 21st in offense, 2nd in defense. And yeah, Tennessee is looking really good. Now we got the top 3, the big dogs. Now, I've been saying this for a while. I think UConn and Purdue are 1A, 1B. But now look at this. Neither of them are the number 1 overall team. And as of right now, I'm going to say these 3 teams are 1A, 1B, and 1C. I don't think that's crazy to say. They're all either 25 and 3 or 24 and 3. So they all have 3 losses. All of them are right there for top 20 in both offense and defense. One of them is 1 spot, outside. Purdue obviously had a rough week last week, or the week before last week. This past week, they didn't do anything wrong, but they had to move down just because of a team jumping over them. They are 2nd right now in KenPom, just narrowly ahead of UConn. They're 2nd in offense, 21st in defense. UConn right now is 3rd in offense and 20th in defense, so they're 1 spot higher in defense, but 1 spot lower in offense. Purdue is overall higher by about 0.4, and all 3 of these teams are at least 2 spots ahead of the fourth best team in KenPom, or 2 points ahead of, sorry, the fourth team in KenPom. UConn obviously lost on the road against Creighton this week, so they could not be won any longer. And Houston, what a monster week, capitalizing off of Purdue losing the week before last, and then UConn losing last week. They went out and showed out. They won at home against Iowa State, who's ranked 8th right now, and then went on the road into Waco and took down Baylor. Very impressive win in overtime. They are looking really good. LJ Cryer, Jamal Shedd leading the charge. Emmanuel Sharp's been really good too. They've been the number one KenPom team for pretty much the whole season, and right now they are 3 points ahead of Purdue, who is in second. They're 16th in offense, first in defense. They've been, and I will say they're first in defense by a long shot. I mean, nobody's even close. Per 100 possessions, they're only averaging 87 points. So if you just look at that, if you get a 2 every possession, like, just a normal, layup or something, or mid-range, not a 3. If you get a 2 every possession on Houston, you're scoring less than half the time, which is ridiculous. There's only a couple teams that can say that. Only about like 15 teams. So and Houston is far ahead of second place. So that is ridiculous. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy how good their defense is, and their offense isn't something to laugh at either. 16th is very, very good. They're right now the best team in the country. Now they probably won't have the number 1 overall seed just because of their resume lacking, but they play in the Big 12 and they just beat 2. They beat a top 5 team in Iowa State, or sorry, they were 6th, but right there, and then they beat number 11 Baylor. Now, obviously, both those teams have dropped a little bit since they lost to Houston. But yeah, right now, Houston is the number 1 team. And to be honest, I don't know who I'd pick to win it all. I was saying UConn for a little bit, but right now it might actually be Houston. I don't know. They've been on a mission recently. Looking at the remaining schedule, we're just going to do a quick little look before I end the video. Houston's remaining schedule is looking like home against Cincinnati tomorrow, on the road against Oklahoma this Saturday, and then next week they got on the road against UCF, and then home against Kansas. They honestly should win 3 of those last 4 at least. They could definitely win all 4. Home against Kansas will be tough, and on the road against Oklahoma will also be kind of tough. But yeah, I mean, I'm not putting it past them to win all 4 of those games. And heading into the Big 12 tournament, they are playing their best basketball right now on a 5-game win streak. Still undefeated at home. They are looking dangerous. So good for the Houston Cougars to move into the number 1 spot. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Power 40 rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We got college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. So when those seasons are around, we're doing videos for them every single week. We'll have an NBA video later this week. I know I said that last week, and I'm sorry. I was going to do it. I was going to do it on any of the weekdays once I found time. I had a bunch of homework Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I had a lot of things going on, so I wasn't going to do it on Thursday anyway, and then Friday was my birthday, so I didn't want to record on that day. So, sorry about that, but we will definitely have one this week. Could be tomorrow, probably not. Probably looking at Wednesday or Thursday, if I had to guess. So yeah, make sure you tune in for that. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. I'll see you guys with that one in a couple days.